All right, let's dive into a story that is causing a huge stir, from the Champs-Élysées all the way to the little cafes of Montmartre. There's a bombshell new survey out, and it suggests a massive cultural shift is happening in France, one that challenges, well, one of its most famous stereotypes. And it all really boils down to this one kind of wild question. Could the classic French affair, the age-old cliché, finally be over? The latest data has literally everyone talking, so let's get into it and unpack what's really going on here.
So, where is all this commotion coming from? It's a brand new survey from INSEE, which is France's National Statistics Institute. And people are calling it a revolution in numbers. Why? Because it claims to completely shatter these long-held beliefs we all have about French monogamy. To really get the scale of this supposed shift, you've got to look at the timeline. I mean, just over a decade ago, back in 2014, infidelity was pretty much universal. But now, you fast forward to 2025, and the numbers are showing what some analysts are calling a palpable plunge toward virtue. Okay, so let's start with the baseline, right? Back in 2014, the adultery rate was, wait for it, a staggering 99.7%. It was so high that the lead statistician on the report, a Dr. Amour Amiot, famously joked that back then, even the Eiffel Tower had a side piece. So what about the new numbers? Well, in 2025, the rate for men has dropped to 96%, and for women, it's sitting at 97%. Now, it's probably worth pointing out this data comes from thousands of anonymous confessions made through these apps that people have nicknamed confess cams. And when you actually see it visualized like this, that drop from 99.7% down to an average of 96.5% today, well, it's being presented as this monumental societal transformation. It's a tiny little dip, but apparently it has massive implications. And the guy behind all these numbers, Dr. Amour Amiot, he couldn't be happier. He's calling it phenomenal progress. He actually pointed out that a 3.7-point drop is, and I'm quoting here, enough to save a marriage every millennium. He summed it all up perfectly. Long live virtue. Vaguely. So what on earth is causing this cultural earthquake? Naturally, we have to turn to the experts to try and explain this newfound, if slight, embrace of monogamy. A sociologist named Sylvie Sartre has this really fascinating theory. She calls it post-pandemic Puritanism. Basically, she argues that while the lockdowns might have pushed people apart at first, the rise of new tech is now acting like a digital chaperone. Shaming would-be cheaters. So let's break down her ideas. Beyond just the pandemic's influence, she's pointing to couples spending more quality time together with Zoom Zoomies and Netflix Nookie. And then, of course, there's the rise of those Mon Chéri mistake apps she mentioned. She even made a joke that for some people, hacking into the company HR files to find an office fling just became way too much paperwork. Okay, so academic theories are one thing, but how is this whole statistical revolution actually being talked about by the average person in Paris? Let's move away from the ivory tower and into the, let's say, cynical reality of a local cafe. When one self-proclaimed cafe philosopher named Pierre Petit was asked about this new 96% number, he had a more grounded take on it. He said, "That's not the number of people who cheat, that's just the ones who got caught." A healthy dose of Parisian realism for you right there. And believe it or not, this whole trend is actually having ripple effects that go way beyond the bedroom. Let's take a look at how this newfound fidelity is apparently starting to reshape the entire French economy. It's a pretty simple, if a little ironic, chain reaction. As fidelity goes up, even just a tiny bit, these so-called debauchery divorces have reportedly dipped by 2%, and taking their place, a whole new industry is popping up. Fidelity farms. Think couples retreats all focused on the art of staying together. So after all that, what is the official takeaway here? Is this real progress, a statistical blip, or is it maybe something else entirely? Well, the political spin is, as you'd expect, super optimistic. President Macron, who apparently made this comment in between bites of a macaroon, framed it as France's heart now beating with a metronome of monogamy. He even set a new national goal. Let's get that rate down to 95% by 2030. But we have to give the last words to the man who started this whole conversation, Dr. Amiot. When he was asked for his final summary, he kept it short, sweet, and just perfectly French. Progress? Yes. Perfect? Never. And all of this really just leaves us with one last thought to chew on. In a culture that is so famously defined by amour,
This data just raises a whole new question. As these numbers slowly inch their way toward virtue, what does fidelity in the City of Light even mean anymore?